Okay, so we're here to talk about Econe's horses and our horse program and how we take care of our horses and the all of the fun and connective things that we do with Econe horses. I'm Shoni. I work at Econe, and I do work a lot with the horse program in the summer. So if you're coming to camp this summer for a horse session, maybe I'll get to take you on a trail ride. Trail rides are my specialty, and it's my most fun part of my job is getting to take people out on trail rides. And now I'll introduce Susan.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Happy spring. I'm Susan Holmes. I am the development manager.
And now I'll let Jenna introduce herself, and then Jenna, you can just take it away.
Hi, I'm Jenna. I manage the horses, among other things. Um, let's take it away. So the first thing we wanted to do is meet the herd. Let me screen share you guys. Ta-da! Can you see her? Great. This is Aurora. I'm gonna go alphabetically because hang on. Because I want to. And I need to make my own screen so I can see them. This is Aurora. This is our newest horse. This is also the pregnant horse. Maybe some of you know that we have a pregnant horse. Spoiler alert, no baby yet. But we are waiting with bated breath and checking her out every day and seeing if we can see any of the signs that start to show up when they get closer. This day that this picture was taken, I put her in the stall we have set up for her when she foals, to eat some hay and dry off a bit. And the horse, looking very anxiously over the railing next to her, trying to figure out who she is Chance. And he is the next one. Before we get to the next one, I realized I should tell you some details about her. She's 13, and we got her from Iowa. And she is part draft horse. We really love our draft crosses. And we're gonna have another one pretty soon. Chance. Chance is 17 this year, and he came from Canada. He had some Western training, and now he does summer camp. He was in a limbo last year. He was diagnosed with kissing spine, but we've been doing some stuff to support him, and I'm hoping I can make him sound for this summer, maybe even without surgery. We'll see, but he's very sweet and darling, and he is famous for his very light blue eyes. Cricket is one of our newest horses, and her claim to fame, well, actually, she has two claims to fame. One of them is that she has that really cool white spot on her shoulder on the right side, which you can see that looks like a dragon or a wolfhound or something. And her other claim to fame is that she came from across town. We found her in Centerville, which is just the other side of town from Goldendale. So we got lucky with her location. She's very sweet. She's 11 this year. This is Egret. Egret is 14 this year. She was born on Valentine's Day. She also came from Iowa back in 2019. She was our first draft cross mare. She's 1/4 Belgian and 3/4 quarter horse. So she is not very much draft compared to some of our other ones. But you can still see it in her head and her build. And she was the first horse we bought who had driving training. So she knows how to pull a cart, and we've done a little bit of that with her. She knows way more than we do, but she's generous with us. This is Ember. She's another draft cross mare. Can you see a pattern? And she is just delightful. She came to us in 2022 in the fall. She is probably about 12 or so now, 11, something like that. And she is the typical like Belgian coloring. I don't know if she's part Belgian. We don't really know for sure, but we do think she's part draft. And she has two nicknames. Well, one nickname and one sort of title. The title is that sometimes I call her a Great Dane puppy because she's so sweet and snuggly. And her nickname is Barbie Giraffe because she looks like a giant Barbie horse, but she's very sweet. This is Grace. Grace is Shoni's horse, and she was born here at Ekone in 2008, early that year. So, which makes her 17 this year. Crazy. She's one of our most personable horses, as you can tell, based on how she's responding to an ode being read to her last summer. This is Lady. Lady is Sean's horse. He's our facilities manager. And she came to us when he did in 2017. Sometime in the spring she showed up. And she's darling. She's kind of small. I call her fun-sized. And one of her funny quirks is that when she gets relaxed on the trail, her ears kind of bobbed off to the side, and it's just really sweet and cute. This is Leo. With Ruby. Leo is one of my horses who I bought for the ranch, and then he ended up coming to me and Sean. He's darling. He sometimes thinks he's a stallion, but I think he's getting better about that. And he's very cute. This is Littlefoot. She came to us in 2018, and she is the mama to our last baby, who's almost 6. And Littlefoot is just so darling. She is, I believe, currently our only registered horse. Her registered name is Truly Truckle Ally. Don't ask me why I remember that. But she's very darling and sweet, and we love her. And she was a really good mom. This is Mosey. She's our biggest horse by weight. She and Aurora are actually the same height at their withers, which is the bony arc above their shoulders, if you don't know that. And so they're 16.3, which is hands, and that's one hand is 4 inches. So they're both 16 times 4 inches plus 3 inches at their withers. And she came to us from Kansas originally, but from an auction out of Utah. If you want the story of her auction and just the whole process of that, it's a good one. This is Penny. Penny was the first horse I bought at auction in Eugene, and she's a cute little pony, little red pony. She's also very sweet. This is Seven. Seven is my horse. You might call him another registered horse, but I don't know. Registered in terms of somewhere he has paperwork from the BLM. He's a Mustang, but he was born in a holding facility down in Burns. But he's really fun and he likes to show off, so that's why I picked this picture. This is him having a run around before we did some more calm work last summer during Horse Connection Camp. And then this is just a fun horse color genetics nerd moment for me. To share with you is that these two boys are genetically the same color, like they're both red duns, but this is just kind of this shows how different shades of red they can be even under the dun. That's Leo and Seven together, way back in when they first met. This is Star Cruiser. She's 27 this year. I just did the math recently. She is our matriarch. She was born here. And we just love her to bits. She's famous for historically, not so much since her arthritis, but being the fastest horse at Ekone Ranch. And she is just so wonderful in terms of she's a really great herd leader and herd mentor.
She's a horse. I'm just going to interject a tiny bit with Star Cruiser. Star Cruiser has lived her entire life at Ekone, and she is the best horse at being a horse of any horse that I've ever known. Living her whole life at Ekone, knowing this land really well, and knowing how to live in a herd and how to navigate on this land has made her just such a smart, capable, amazing horse. She's been a role model for many other horses and people.
It is really cool watching her interact with a new horse. Actually, when we first put Penny in with her, Penny was like, didn't really know her head from her tail and was just kind of beside herself and running around. And she kept chasing Star Cruiser around because when horses greet each other for the first time, they do it in sets of 3. The third one, after of which they'll usually kind of maybe move somewhere together. But Star Cruiser was not letting Penny get to number 3. She was just leaving her because Penny was like freaking out and running around. And Cruiser was like, I don't need that. So no, we're not going to say hi the third time until you can calm down. It was very cool. That was a couple years ago. Tonica. Tonica is also Canadian, just like Chance, and she's a secret paint horse. She's would be 26 because she's a year behind Star Cruiser. And she came from Shoney's younger sister up in Canada. And she is what is she, Shoney, the granddaughter of the horse you learned how to ride?
When I was a little girl growing up in the bush in Canada, I rode her grandmother, was my childhood horse.
Which is really a sweet story. She came to us with a different name, but we had a horse who had a really similar name, and so Shoni had the idea to call her Tonica after Tonica Creek, which is the farm she was born at was named after up in Canada. And she's a secret unicorn. And she also is famous for having the itchiest face of the whole herd. She will she will gladly rub her entire head up and down you if you so let her, which we try not to because you can imagine what would happen if she did that to a small child.
And when Jenna says that she's a secret paint horse, when she was born, she was black and white, like Littlefoot, kind of like big spots of black and white. And then she turned totally white as time went on.
If you want to know why that is, let me know. Maybe not in this Zoom, but this is Windy. She's also 17. She was born the same year as Grace here, in 2008, and she's darling. What about
She's
Windy?
Star Cruiser's daughter.
She's Star Cruiser's daughter, yeah. Sorry, my other monitor keeps turning off. She's very sweet. Ironically, she was ironic considering that I've known her her whole life and know her really well. She was the horse I was on when I broke my ankle in 2023, and it was totally an accident. She just slipped. And it was actually my fault for not thinking about all the factors that led to that. But she got up, she was just fine, and I got a plate in my ankle, and here we are. I do not hold it against her. And this is Zephyr. She is the one who's almost 6. Shoni and I just this morning took Zephyr and Grace on a little walk, kind of a training walk, and she did really great. Tomorrow morning, I think we're gonna put a saddle pad and a surcingle on her, which is like a belt for a horse, if you don't know that word, and do the same walk with just something on her body. Because
So
we're getting ready to
kids that come to camp
saddle
this
on her.
summer might get to watch Zephyr being trained a bit
Yeah.
because she's still getting her education. She doesn't know everything yet. She needs to know about how to go on trail rides and how to wear a saddle and how to have a rider. And so that'll be a really fun thing this summer to be part of Zephyr's education.
6 does sound, I mean, if any of you have experience in the horse industry, 6 does sound old for saddle training. However, based on the age at which the different parts of their bones and skeleton mature, she's actually right on schedule. And there's a growing contingent of people in the industry that are waiting longer and longer. Yeah, okay. It's gonna happen. So, pre this Zoom, we talked about how there might be baby pictures, but I already told you that we don't have a baby yet. So what I did is I went into the archives of my old phone and pulled out these. If people had their microphones on, I'm sure there would be some oohing and eyeing. In fact, I actually forgot that wasn't happening. So right before this, I was like, oh, it's gonna be really quiet.
Ooh, oh.
Oh, thanks. Look at her tiny little face.
We're gonna have one of those.
I am so excited. And so there's a few of just cuteness overload from when they were in their stall. Ugh, just so spindly. Funny story, when Zephyr was born, the night before, I had been sleeping in the hay barn, and it's like kind of exhausting doing that because I have to do all my normal home things and then go down and get in my sleeping bag, and it wasn't very warm at night. And then I would have to get up and go back home in the morning and do those chores and yada yada. It was kind of a lot of work. So I told myself, I'm going to give myself a break. I'm going to sleep in the hay barn tomorrow night. And of course, the night I don't sleep in the hay barn is the night that she has her baby. So I'm not doing that this time. This time I even have a camera. Baby nursing. Oh, so cute. And this was her first baby, which is part of the reason our vet told us that she's a little bit small. It's because oftentimes their first baby is on the smaller side. So cute. This one was made into a painting that's in the lodge now. This was her first introduction to other horses than her mother. Cruiser was very into this. Cruiser had baby fever for sure. She just wanted the baby. She says, "Give it to me." But she earned it because she is such a good grandma. I'm excited for more of this. Shoni, I think in this picture you're actually standing behind Littlefoot. We just can't see you.
I'm
Tiny
not.
This is also what I'm mostly looking forward to again. And then this is a joyride, and you can see Littlefoot chasing down her baby, worried that she's gonna, I don't know, hurt herself.
Okay, baby, baby, baby. Tell us about camp, Jenna.
Well, perfect segue, baby in camp. Um, what about camp? Well, we're not to camp yet, Shoni.
Okay, I'm excited about camp.
Okay. Before we talk about camp, we're gonna talk a little bit about just our horse keeping. We came across this term. I came across the term species appropriate lifestyle a number of years ago.
Wait, can you say
And
that again, but slower?
you're right. Yes, I can. I came across the term species appropriate lifestyle a number of years ago now, and while we can't do everything that would get our horses that, we can definitely take steps, and there are things that we are already doing that make our horses, that give them an advantage compared to some horses in the world. And the main three tenets are what they call the three Fs. Those three Fs are friends, forage, and freedom. Friends means the horses get to live with other horses. Horses are herd animals, and they did not evolve to live by themselves. And so they do best in so many ways if they can have friends. All of our horses live with other horses in paddocks in different size herd groups. Forage. Horses evolved to be eating between like 16 and 20 hours a day in the wild. Like if you think about the wild horses in America and the pictures you see of them, they are out on open rangeland, and the food they have access to is a lot of low quality grasses and shrubs and things like that. So they evolved to be eating lots of relatively low quality food most of the day. And so the best way we can approximate that for our horses is to feed them out of nets that have pretty small holes that extends the time that they are chewing, and extends the time they have an acid buffer in their stomach. And that's pretty cool, and that's a pretty big deal for them. They're a lot less stressed than they would be if they were just getting fed like twice a day. And then freedom ties into having space to move. There are too many horses in this world. Not any that I know of around here, but that spend all of their time living in stalls, tiny boxes, tiny cages. They're huge. Too big. And so we really make an effort to give our horses a lot of space. One of our paddocks is a track paddock, so it's a big field, but the horses have access to a strip around the outside so that they can move and keep themselves moving. Narrowing the space is actually one way to increase movement. But just like us, it's really good for horses to move. Those are the main things about horse keeping. In terms of the way that we interact with them, we have, for the past few years, more so than before, but I think kind of up on a trajectory, we've been doing more like body work. We used to have a body worker that would come out a couple times a year, and since then, or kind of concurrently with that, but I've been learning a fair amount about body work and then teaching volunteers and interns and summer staff little tidbits. So we do some body work. We do some groundwork that has kind of a biomechanical side hustle that's designed to help the horses like condition their bodies in such a way that it makes them comfortable to carry a rider. And the training that we do with the horses is kind of constantly evolving, to be honest. But what I like to call it lately is like horse informed. So we train horses with like the SEF, the Ekone horses, with a basic training like process of pressure and release, which is in the science lingo is negative reinforcement. Negative just means subtractive, it doesn't mean bad. But so we add pressure in small amounts, and then we remove it when they do the right thing. And we have taken that basic process and just really listen to the horses, and we like to adapt the specifics of what we're doing based on what the horses are telling us. Our goal is to train horses that are calm and happy to do their job and whose bodies are able to keep doing it for a while. And we love them. Okay, Shoni, are you ready to talk about summer camp?
Let's talk about summer camp.
Okay. There are a couple different types of programs here at Ekone in which riding like is part of that. The main one is summer camp. But back when I was a camper and when Shoni was a camper, it was like all the horse camps were kind of the same in terms of it was all horse camp and the structure was the same. So there would be horse time for part of the day with like half the kids or so, and then something else going on at the same time, and then you would kind of swap in the afternoon. And I say half, but approximately. But then now we have actually quite a range of camps, even within our horse program. We have Young Rider, which is a really great intro camp for kids that have never been to Ekone and are relative beginner riders. That's very sweet. We actually do a lot of riding in that camp, lots of trail riding, and it's very cute. We
And
have
in that camp, a lot of times we're going out on the trail in a one-on-one coaching way. So every rider and every horse has their own special coach to help them learn. And then we go out on the trail and we learn while we're trail riding, which is a really fun way for kids to learn and a really easy way for the horses to be able to give that kind of a lesson, and fun for everybody just to get to go out on the land and be out under the trees and riding horses through beautiful, beautiful places and learning as we go and having so much fun.
I'm glad you said that because I literally have in my notes that I have to say the holy grail that is trail ride lessons. A few years back, we decided to try doing the lesson on the trail, and we have never looked back. It is so great. It's great for the kids, it's great for the horses, and we just love it.
Because who wants to ride around and around and around in an arena anyways?
Right.
Let's
And who
just go
wants
out
to?
on a trail.
Nobody, including the horses. So yeah, so that's Young Rider. We have our classic horse camp, which looks more like what all the camps used to look like. And that we typically will still do our first lesson with the trail ride style, and then we like later in the week, what we do is we have our aim during classic camp is to get every kid independent on a trail ride. And so we do that by taking the kids out on the trail that are ready and spending some days gaining skills in like an arena or playground setting. We have a big flat spot on the ground, which is where you'll park when you drop kids off at camp, that when we were kids, we called the barrel field. Then there was a time where it was called the arena. Now it's called the playground because it has obstacles, and we actually have a arena with walls. So just to give you an idea of what that looks like, the playground is a flat spot with different obstacles and also a big hill the kids can ride up and over, which is like cute trail ride practice. But yeah, so lesson, skill building, trail ride. And then if the kids that trail ride earlier in the week might be in a position to do some more specialized skill coaching later in the week as well. We have Wrangler Camp, which is a more intense horse camp, but it's also a camp for kids that are really interested in working hard and pitching in and kind of making their mark on Ekone in whatever fashion. We try to find a project that they can carry through the week and then get to see the way that impacts the place after that. Like then they come back the next year and they can say, I did that. Also, we've decided to try to make Wrangler Camp a really good chance for the kids to start orienting themselves on the land. So we talk a lot about maps, and we let the kids kind of plan their own trail rides, and that's really fun for them and for us. What else? We have Horse Connection Camp, which is my baby.
Well,
Which
let's first let's talk about advanced riding camp, and then let's talk about the ground camps.
Okay. This year, for the first time, we're offering a camp. So it's called Advanced Riding Camp. Um, I will preface that by saying it's advanced compared to most of the kids that come to camp. Um, I don't want people to think like that we're doing fancy show stuff. We're not. This is like for kids that ride at home. So it's not advanced on its own necessarily, but it's advanced compared to kids that don't ride. And we are planning a camp that includes probably some more speed is the idea. Some trotting and maybe cantering as well. And looking forward to that. It's going to be very cute.
And we will sometimes do trotting at camps that are not the advanced riding camp, depending on where kids are at. But we do get a lot of riders who don't ride at home. And it's not realistic for us to take kids who've never ridden before or don't ride regularly and develop the muscles and the balance and the skill and the communication capacity with the horse and all of the things that you need to be able to ride fast independently. So we will often do some trotting practice with kids of all different levels, but we can't get too far in one week at summer camp. So the advanced riding camp we created as a session for kids who do ride at home and are ready for more adventurous rides and potentially some work at faster speed. But it's not that we don't do those things at other camps. It's just that we can't do as much because there's really a lot of skill that's involved in riding horses, and especially the way that we're doing it, which is really considerate for the horses as well as fun for the people. This isn't just like a get on and go with no regard for the horses kind of program. We're giving the horses a lot of regard, and we really insist on kids and adults having the skills to be able to be good communicators with the horses and safe for themselves.
Mhm. It can be really hard on their bodies to do some of those higher speeds if we're not trying to create the muscle development and the shapes in their bodies that make it easier. So it's a little bit more finessed.
Okay, now do you want to talk about some of the ground camps?
Well,
Horse Connection Camp?
let's lump ground camp into the next thing. There's just a little bit more I want to talk about riding. Another way that people ride here is at school field trips. And the main thing I wanted to remember to say related to that is just the thing about the trail ride lessons. We do that during school field trips when the kids ride. And it has just been so good. And then the other riding offering that's relatively new that we have is adult trail ride camp, which is in October. Watch your emails. You will have already gotten emails with a sign up link for that if you're interested. And if not, I'm sure it will come again. And there's a link to it on our website as well.
Because we've
But
had a lot of adults over the past years being like, I want to come to camp. And we're like, great. Come to
okay.
camp.
So we've done that twice now and it's a blast and it's a lot of fun. So it's like a lot of riding. You got to be ready to like be in the saddle for a while, but it is fun. Okay. Now we'll do ground programs. We'll tiptoe back to summer camp because there is a ground summer camp, which is the Horse Connection Camp. And that one, so again, Horse Connection Camp is my baby. It evolved from COVID years, 2020, when we actually didn't do summer camp. We did family camps. And at a certain point in the summer, case numbers in Washington State were rising. And we thought, riding is one of the activities that put the staff the closest to the participants. So maybe we should stop riding. But is there a way we can incorporate the horses that doesn't involve that? And I said, pick me, pick me, pick me. And so I started by just doing what we call horse tea time, which is we go out and we spend non-demanding time with the horses. So that's something we now do in Horse Connection Camp as well. And I've been teaching people different little light basic body work stuff, which is very sweet. And it's really powerful to watch the responses in the horses and see them get to a place of releasing tension. The process of some of this body work involves doing a lot of little light touch, well, some light touch, varying amounts of it, watching the responses of the horses, and then watching them find that release of tension. It's one of my favorite things. So we do a teen version of that, and we've done that twice now, and I love it. And we also decided to offer an adult version, which we did for the first time last May, Adult Horse Connection Camp. That's a lot of words, so it's also fondly referred to as Jenna Camp because but it's one of my favorite things. And actually, I would say one of my favorite things to do with horses is to introduce like adult beginners to horses, especially in that way. It is just so great. Oh my gosh, did you do that during the Zoom? I love it. That's so cute. Yeah. I don't know what else to say about Connection Camp other than it's just really fun.
Yeah, I want to pump up Connection Camp just a little bit because
Yeah.
and some of these elements of Connection Camp are built into all of the different experiences that kids and adults have with horses at Ekone. And the longer I am around horses, and I've been around horses for my whole life, and just like all the time, I am more and more and more amazed by this miracle that we get to be friends with these great, big, beautiful animals who are so kind and so smart and have so much to teach us. And we get to be near them and we get to have an amazing kind of relationship with them. And they reflect things back to us. And we get to like be in this really special kind of relationship with these great, big, huge animals that's really different than any other kind of relationship that we get to have with animals in this life. It's so special. And then sometimes we get to climb up on their backs and communicate with them and go somewhere together. And that is just like a total miracle. It's an amazing thing. And even when we don't climb up on their backs and go somewhere together, the relationship itself, even without the riding part, is really, really wonderful and special. And sometimes taking the riding out of the equation and not making it like we have to go somewhere together makes the relationship even sweeter. If you can just focus on being in the relationship with the horses and not have the pressure of everybody having to do the right thing so that we can go somewhere together and be safe about it. If you can take that out of the mix, then sometimes you get to even have a better relationship. So that's been a really amazing thing to get to watch develop at Ekone. And we really, all of our programs really focus on the relationship first and the well-being of the horse first, to the extent that we can fit in a short week of summer camp. So that's what I'll say about that.
It's my favorite thing.
They're pretty special.
Yeah. If I could never ride again, I would still have horses. Like, no question.
But
Um,
also riding is really fun. I like riding a lot.
it is fun, and it is not the end all be all of being around horses. The last thing I have in my notes to just mention is that we also are in the process of figuring out and trying to articulate and create and evolve a horse internship. We want longish term volunteers who have a driver's license and have graduated high school. But we're in the process of kind of figuring that out, and that's exciting. And the more people hours we have to put into the horses, the better it's going to be for the horses. And so I'm just so thrilled about that. We actually have somebody arriving next week who is going to be in that role this spring, and are really stoked about that. So
A couple things that came to mind, Jenna, while you were talking, that we missed. One thing is that all of Econe's horses are barefoot. We don't put steel horseshoes on any of our horses' feet. It's more healthy and more natural for their hooves to not have steel horseshoes nailed to them. Horses evolved to have free bare feet. And Jenna's invested a lot of effort into creating hoof care that is really healthy for them. A lot of their physical health depends on their feet being healthy. And so we're doing a lot of work to make their feet be healthy and natural. And then another thing is that most of our horses, not all of them right now, but most of them we're riding bitless. We're not we have a couple of horses that are more used to being ridden in a bit because of how they were trained before they came to us, but most horses we find are happier when they don't have a piece of steel in their mouth. And the kind of riding that we're doing is not so technical. And the kind of relationship that we have with our horses is generally pretty like we get along with each other pretty well. So we're able to do what the riding that we need to do with these very, very light, gentle bitless bridles. And then another feature of Econe's horse program is that most of the time we're riding bareback. Not all of the time, and there are times when riding in saddles is better for the horses or better for the riders. But most of the time, especially with kids, especially with beginner riders, which sometimes surprises people, we're riding bareback. And there's reasons for that, especially with children. Kids tend to have a really good sense of balance, and their bodies really work for them to find the rhythm of moving with the horse and keeping their balance and being in good communication with the horse when they're bareback. And they actually learn that better and faster when they're bareback than they do when they're in a saddle. If you put a child on a horse on a saddle, the saddle kind of gets in the way of their natural balance and their natural communication with the horse. Like their body instinctively does a lot of this work for them without them even having to think about it. But then once we become adults, those tables kind of turn where our balance and our strength weight ratio changes for most of us. But our ability to understand complex instructions and follow like a whole bunch of different instructions all at the same time gets bigger. So we're better as adults, we're better at using all of the tools and using the saddle and using all of the different tack than children are. And we have worse balance and not quite as good balance strength weight ratios. So adults usually will put in saddles and kids usually will put bareback, especially for beginner riders riding at a walk. Riding bareback is actually counterintuitively much safer than riding in a saddle. So those are a few other features of our horse program and the way that we're teaching kids and interacting with the horses.
I was bareback when I in 2023 when I broke my ankle, and I was really glad that I was, because if I was in a stirrup, that would have not been as smooth. It's funny calling that
And
smooth.
to be clear, that's the only broken bone that we've had
It
in
actually
like
is.
ever.
It totally is.
And Jenna was doing a thing that no summer campers will be doing. So let me be clear about that was a singular kind of risk that is
That
not
is
a risk.
very true. I was showing off, if you will.
Okay, I think that those were the only gaps that I heard that I meant to fill in. Susan, from your perspective, anything that you know that we should have talked about that we didn't before we open it up for questions?
I think we're good. I think well done. Thanks, you two.
I could talk about horses for days.
Yeah, if you guys want to just stay on all night, we'll be here talking about horses because it's our favorite thing. Looks like it might be the favorite thing of at least one other person on this call as well.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions that you would like to ask about any of our horses or the way that we ride or the fun things we do at camp or our philosophy or anything like that?
I do.
Great, Dave.
It I know from experience that sitting on a horse suddenly, if you're not used to that, having your legs all spread out over that big old body, um, can lead to the second day is saddle sore. That's the thing. I'd like some suggestions, whether you're 10 years old or 72, what are good exercises and stretches to do to get ready to minimize the saddle sore?
If you find out, can you tell me? I'm sure there are exercises that can help with that. Couldn't tell you what they are. I just sort of deal with it every year. I will say that one thing that I have experienced that is good practice getting ready to ride, that's unfortunately not necessarily related to saddle soreness, but is balance practice. So stand on one leg, go home, stand on one leg, get better at that. That can help a lot, deceptively a lot.
It uses these inner thigh muscles that don't get
Mhm.
much work in regular life, right? So stretching and strengthening those inner thigh muscles and your just your upper legs in general, all of that will be good practice for riding.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah. Lydia, and if anybody else has questions, feel free just to unmute and pipe in, and if we get a line, we'll manage you.
I'm curious if I did the 2 horse communication and connection workshops that were done with, my brain is completely,
Matney
With
and Kate.
Matney?
yes, yes. Is that material included in the groundwork that you're doing with the kids and with the adults and stuff still that, just I mean, I just found it incredibly amazing to figure out how to ask a horse to do something without pushing them around. All of that.
Well, we do ask a horse to move without pushing them around. I was not a part of that program, and so I can't tell you for certain. But my philosophy with horses is trying to do as much with as little pressure as reasonable as possible, really. And so does that answer your question?
Well, yeah, I mean, what it was that was so remarkable as a human was it was much more about where am I at? What is my attitude? What am I asking? And I had to learn to like make that ask with my body essentially enough that the horse was picking that up. If I was nervous and I wasn't sure and I didn't like for backing up or something like that. And that was a real lesson as a human being. It was a lesson about being connected with what's happening here that is reflected by what happens between you and the horse. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean it's a difficult one to answer, although I will say that a lot of my coaching is kind of in that direction. But coming at it from a different angle maybe. And the rest I can tell you, or there's not much else I can tell you, other than you might just have to come and see. But I hope that answered that a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
We are often navigating the emotions and the like what the humans are bringing to the conversation with the horse is always a big part of the big part of the conversation. And some of our campers are very nervous, and that's one kind of conversation that they're going to have with the horses. And some of our campers are very sure that they know everything, and that's another kind of conversation that they're going to have with the horses. And other ones might be experiencing a different kind of anxiety, and this happens with me too. Like every time I'm around the horses, I'm bringing a different state of being, and it's really important to check in with that state of being and to show up with as much like honesty and integrity and care for the horses and meeting them where they're at and being like honest about what I'm bringing to, and I can bring all different kinds of things to a connection with horses. Like it's going to be a little bit different every time I show up. I'm not always going to be in like this perfect balanced state every time I go and work with the horses, and like that's okay too, but it's most important to be honest with myself and with them about where I'm coming from.
I talk about it as congruency. Horses can tell if
Mhm.
we're not congruent.
Mhm.
And yeah, so congruency over positivity.
Any other questions for us or for the horses?
I have a fun tidbit that I didn't mention earlier, which is that yesterday I felt the baby move. Also, let's see if I can share my screen again. One thing that I think I put in the album, let's just check and see. Yes. I bought myself a camera for the hay barn. This is Aurora's stall that you would have seen in the first picture of her. And so I have a webcam, like, yeah, internet like connected camera so that wherever I am, as long as I have phone service, I can just check and see what the camera's saying, and it gives uh motion thing notifications if I want it, but I'm pretty excited to have that little view.
And one of the things about the baby horse thing is that we didn't have baby horses for many, many years. And when Jenna and I were growing up coming to camp, pretty much all of the camp horses were born here and raised on site and lived their whole life at Ekone. And then 17 years ago, the founder of Ekone died really suddenly, and a lot of things had to change. And one of the things that had to change was that we recognized that raising camp horses from infancy is a really hard way to get really great camp horses. They're not usually really great camp horses until they're like 10 or 12 years old.
I don't
And
know
that's
any other camp that has babies.
and that is a long time to raise a horse and to train it, and it's so much work and so expensive, and it's just a pretty bad way to get great camp horses. It's a much better way to get great camp horses to go and like find good ones who are already in middle age and already show that they want to do this job and do it well. It's a pretty particular job. Um, but we also really value horses like Star Cruiser who've lived their whole life at Ekone and are so confident. Like just today, we took Zephyr for a walk, and me and Jenna were both remarking that she's so confident. She's really not afraid of very much, and she's also very connective. And it's like she already kind of intuitively knows the job, and she trusts people, and she knows how to be a horse and live with other horses. And she has some trail skills, like she knows how to step over logs on the trail, and she knows how to walk up hills and down hills. And if you think about many horses who live on flat ground or live in stalls or who live on like cultivated ground and don't live with a lot of other horses, sometimes like we've had horses that don't know how to be a horse, and they don't know how to walk around outside in nature and step over logs, and they don't know how to have a respectful relationship with a lot of different people. And so horses that live their whole life at Ekone really are awesome. So that's one thing that we wanted to bring back into the mix of Ekone horses. Not all of them, but at least some of them. And we also really loved growing up with horses when we were kids. It was really special, like life-changingly special, so profound to get to see baby horses and to get to have little horses come on trail rides and to get to watch them grow up and to get to be part of their education and watch them get trained and sometimes be a part of helping to train them, and to see all of that happen was a really special thing for us. And so when we decided to make Zephyr and have Littlefoot have a baby, we decided that we wanted to bring that experience back to Ekone so that kids could grow up with horses at Ekone again after 10 years of not having any horse babies. It was time for us to have one. And we've loved having Zephyr. Zephyr's been awesome, and we're excited about the next step of her training process. And then when we were shopping for a new horse, we needed one new horse last fall, and Jenna found Aurora. And we weren't exactly looking for a horse who was pregnant, but the horse that we found, who seemed like the right horse for us, who was the right size and the right temperament and had the right experience and was the right price, happened to be pregnant. And we had to think pretty hard about whether that was a good idea or not. but we love growing up with horses. And so that was a thing that we decided we were going to do again. So lucky us, we get to have a baby this summer. It's going to be so fun and cute.
Well, and with Zephyr being so close to saddle training, it was around the time when we would have been thinking about it again anyway. And then it just sort of fell into our lap. And we love her. We love her so far.
So far, Aurora seems like a great fit, and we hope that she's going to be a really great mom too.
She also has, sorry, that's my cat feeder. She also has experience driving in a pair, and so does Mosey. And our plan is that we can drive the two of them together to pull the caisson, which is the cemetery carriage, out for burials. I'm in the process of ordering them a pair harness that we can also convert to singles as well for that.
So we can do horse-drawn burials and maybe carriage rides. We'll see. Okay, it's 6 o'clock. It's probably dinner time for some of us. So nice to see you all. Did you have a question? Were you raising your hand because you had a question, or were you just saying goodbye? Okay.
But it was
All right.
entertaining.
Well, we'll see some of you at summer camp. We'll see some of you before then. We'll see some of you after then, but we look forward to seeing you all in person when the time is right. And if you have any other questions about Ekone's horses or other stuff, come just fire us a question. We're always here. We always love to talk about horses. And if you have more questions about summer camp and you want to learn more about the summer camp program, we have 2 more Zooms coming up, one in April and one in May. The April one will talk about the olden days of summer camp. If you are interested in knowing about the wild west of summer camp back when we were shorter, you can come to that one. And then the May one is answering all the questions that anybody might have about this year's summer camp, from the food to the projects to the staff to how a day goes, what the facilities are like, where everybody's going to sleep, how it all works. We can answer all of your questions at that one too. So hope some of you will come to that one. And if you know any camp curious folks, feel free to spread the word. The more the merrier. Great. Okay. If anybody wants to unmute and say goodbye, we like that.
Thanks for coming.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Nice to see you.
you.
Looking forward to meeting some of you that we haven't
Bye.
met.
Bye.
Bye. Have a good
Bye.
night.